Hi everyone, I'm your host Matt Salem, and you've tuned in to another episode of Our Best Behavior, brought to you by Behaviorally. We are the global digital-first leader in providing data intelligence through our AI and tech-enabled product stack to help brands own the most valuable moment in marketing, the purchase transaction. We are Behaviorally, the transaction experts. Each episode, we share insights on trending topics within our industry and of interest to our customers. Today, we're joined by Will Leach, founder and CEO of Mindstate Group, a behavioral research and brand consultancy and best-selling author of Marketing to Mindstates, a practical guide to applying behavioral design to research and marketing. Will is also a behavioral design instructor at SMU's Cox School of Business, BLC, and the Texas A&M Human Behavior Lab. With over 25 years of experience in behavioral insights, Will is widely regarded as the world's leading expert on subconscious mind state research and consults with today's most innovative businesses to grow their brands using behavioral science. Will, welcome. Hope you're well.
Matt, thanks for having me, buddy. I appreciate the time. It's going to be a fun one.
Oh, for sure, for sure. It's a pleasure. And, I have to let the audience know right away that you are now officially Mindstate G to me. That's your
Yep.
rap name, your podcast name. I mean, to me, at least I just loved it when you popped up on the screen for the audience. He popped up on the screen we used to record. My screen was compressed. It only showed the G from group, and it said Mindstate G. And I'm like, wow, that's like a rap name. That's awesome. So
I'm just looking for more authority out there for all the younger kids out there and the older kids. I just want authority. So if that's what it takes, I'll take it.
I love it. I love it. Well, hey, have a cool discussion lined up today. Before we get into that, if you could just introduce yourself to the audience, tell them who you are, tell them how you got to where you are, your career path along the way, that would be much appreciated.
Yeah, sure. You did a great job in the intro, so thanks for that. Yeah, I'm the founder of Mindstate Group, a behavioral research consultancies. What we do is we specialize in understanding non-conscious factors of human behavior. We do marketing research, system one types of techniques to identify these non-conscious factors, and I put them in what's called the mind state model to help clients usually optimize their messaging, though we do a little bit of innovation work. Previous to this, I started my career in about 15 years of client-side marketing research. I was in biotech and energy, and I found my way to a small little company called PepsiCo. And I was really lucky enough at PepsiCo where they were throwing a lot of money at new methodologies, and I was introduced to behavioral science. So my background is in econometrics. I went to grad school to do econometrics, which was I thought I was going to go to the Chicago Board of Trade and I was going to forecast futures and become a billionaire. That's literally what I thought was going to happen. And brother, I was in about week 3 of my grad program and I hated it. I was looking at soy futures and soy yields for like the last 100 years because that's all the data. The biggest data sets back then were farming data, and I came from West Palm Beach, Florida. Right? I don't know anything about farming, and I hated it. So I went to my grad lead, I guess, chair of my committee, and I said, I just can't see myself doing this. And he said, well, I've got good news and bad news. The bad news is I can't have you working for me. I'm not going to basically pay for your grad program if you're not going to kind of work on our assignments. But there's this thing over there in the School of Business called marketing research. And I think they do something with he goes, with regressions. So I waddled my way over there and I fell into a class, and Matt, I fell in love. I could not believe there were people out there that got to study, I say like the most complex system ever designed, the human mind. I had no idea. Fell in love with it, didn't know what I was doing, talked myself into my very first job, which got me just doing basic marketing research. And so I just kind of basically did that for a number of years. And like I said, I went on to PepsiCo where they started investing heavily into behavioral sciences, where I was able to bring in behavioral scientists, neuroscientists. We had culture anthropologists, and that just brought out another passion, which was behavioral sciences, understanding the non-conscious. Because we know that's the vast majority, all this transactions that you make, you guys are the transaction experts. Every transaction is made at a subconscious level. We may not think that's true, but that's what's happening. And so it's our job to understand those little tells that people have, whether it's through my methodologies or your methodologies. And so that's kind of where I'm at today. Been doing my company now for 10 years now.
Awesome, awesome. I love it. I love it. I mean, you're a wealth of knowledge for sure, and we're lucky to have you on the podcast with us today. And as you know, this season we've been incorporating AI into the mix quite a bit in the podcast here, and really it has been the common thread through the episodes. And I think that's rightfully so because when you think about our industry right now, it's where all the conversation is. and there's a lot of energy being focused on it. And certainly for us and the products and our product suite, we're integrating it quite well. With that being said, I want to start bringing AI into the B-side mix with you and talk a little bit to me first about behavioral AI, which is, something that you've been bringing to the public domain a lot. I know there was a recent webinar that you hosted. There's a publication that I read through, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Tell me a bit about behavioral AI.
Yeah, so the concept really came about a year ago, and I guess that's a lifetime as it relates to most of us in the AI field. Not all of us. I know some of you guys are experts out there, but really the idea of behavioral AI started with a LinkedIn post that I saw from somebody named Susan Sweet. She's a qualitative moderator, has got a great successful practice, and she wrote on this LinkedIn post and went viral. And she wrote in here, I'm quoting here, she talks a little bit about using AI platforms to look at qualitative data. And she says, but I'm not convinced I'm getting any nuanced learning and certainly not any insights from the AI's rolled up summaries. Maybe it's me. So she's not bad mouthing AI. She's like, maybe I'm using it wrong. Right. And so
Mm-hmm.
she's not an AI expert. She's like, maybe, and she's asking, like, maybe I just don't know what I'm doing. So all of a sudden, a ton of people start hitting this post saying, I'm getting the same thing. I'm getting findings. I don't know if I'm getting insight. So at the same exact time, I'm sitting there, the Olympics are happening. And I'm sitting there going, you know what? I'm looking at the US gymnastics team, the women's gymnastics team. I guess all gymnastics teams are like this. And it dawned on me that the marketing research industry is half, not the full, but half of the US gymnastics team. Let me explain. So when you're building the US gymnastics team, you basically have generalists and you have specialists. Now the generalists are picked from all over the country, and there's a large program, and generalists are really, really good at lots of general things. Then what happens? You bring in specialists like Simone Biles, who's really good at the horse, I think it's called, or whatever. But you bring in these specialists who now they can knock it out of the park to get you the big rating. So the generals keep you in the running for the gold, and the specialists win the gold. So I'm watching this and I'm thinking to myself, and here's how it is, like your mind starts working and you're pulling pieces together. And I said, the problem with Susan Sweet is she's only using the generalist part of the team. She's not using the specialist part.
Mm.
Now, on the side, Matt, I'm a specialist. I work in the field of behavioral sciences, and I'm looking at these models, especially large language models, and they're not designed based upon behavioral psychology. They're designed to take billions and billions and trillions of conversational data. So I'm looking at it going, we're all using these LLMs in one capacity or another. Now, maybe you're a firm out there and you're creating an LLM, a smaller LLM based upon your client data. Fine. Maybe you're using one of these larger, whether it's Bard or Claude or ChatGPT, whatever. But either way, we're using generalist data. And by the way, it works really well. So what I was thinking to myself is like, wait. If I wanted to solve my client's biggest problems, wouldn't I want the generalist? Because I want to win that gold. I want to be in the running, and I want the specialist. I want Simone Biles. To me, that's behavioral science. So when you link these two things together, I think you become a much better researcher and a better resource and kind of consultant for your clients. That to me is behavioral AI. And so I talked about that in that webinar, and it took off, Matt. Like I had, it was like a mini conference. I had over 200 people show up for that webinar, and I've had
Awesome.
another couple of hundred people go to YouTube and watch that little, webinars are. You get 40 people, and you're pretty excited about that. So
Sure.
there's something about this idea. It's touching a nerve,
Yep.
and so that's why I believe behavioral AI. It's building in what we call large language models with NLP models, natural language processing models, to give you that specialist point of view, linking those things together. And I think you're going to get much gold medal winning teams.
Yeah, no, and I like the analogy there too. And everyone roots for Simone Biles because she's awesome.
Yeah,
But
best.
with that being said, so if we think about LLMs and the power that they have, and to your point, everybody's using them, right? And they are generalized, and I think there's obviously advantages that come with that in terms of being able to address such a multitude of topics seamlessly,
Mhm.
provide you conversational type feedback, etc. But understood on your point about the nuance of answer, if you will, and perhaps how NLP can help get you that nuance. So if you think about this kind of multifaceted approach to Gen AI, how is that going to help translate to us getting those insights to better understand shopper behavior, shopper psychology, and really bring kind of the B side POV to the table through that marketing research lens.
I like it. I like it. So let me, for those of you out there that may not kind of understand natural language processing and large language models, let me try to simplify as best I can. And the way I did it in this ebook was I think of a large language model as a brilliant librarian, sorry, who moonlights as a fiction writer. And this brilliant librarian has access to the world's information. So imagine this is that LLM. She has access to every single piece of data that's basically ever been out there, and she's a hell of a fiction writer. So she can summarize things really quickly. She can find patterns in the data that no human can. By the way, that's why LLMs matter. It's not just because it summarizes data; it actually can find insights that you and I can't. And I've had it work on my own data, right? So but it's still a generalist. She's really good, but she doesn't really know a lot about shopping behavior. She's a librarian to the world's knowledge. So she's not a specialist in shopper behavior. She's not a specialist in behavioral psychology, et cetera. So she's going to find emerging trends. She's going to find insights, general insights that you otherwise would not see. And those create great hypotheses and great summaries for you to look at massive amounts of conversational data that you have to bring in insight. Then there's this other agent. So this is your natural language processing model. Think of a natural language processing model, at least the one I use, as this brilliant behavioral psychologist and mathematician. So she doesn't have access to the world's information, but man, she really understands mathematics and she is brilliant in behavioral psychology. So what she's been trained to do based on behavioral psychology, that's my NLP. There's other NLPs that do other things. My NLP is trained on behavioral sciences and behavioral psychology. It's looking for psychological motivations that are hidden inside of that unstructured data. She's looking for regulatory fit or cognitive heuristics. She's been trained to do specifically this. So what she's doing is she's looking for emotions, motivations through that work that the LLM did and saying, oh gosh, not only did you find this insight, but let me tell you the why behind that insight. LLMs are great at getting you what data. What data is really important? What's happening? What do my customers think? That's really important. Why data, especially if you're in my world, behavioral sciences, you want to understand motivations, motivational psychology, regulatory fit theory, things like that. So that's what that second NLP model does. And then what you do is when you combine like I said, when you combine those two things, you're getting a lot of great what's happening in the marketplace. What are my shoppers asking for? What are my shoppers likes? What do my shoppers think about my experience? And then you get that NLP. Oh, why she likes it? It's because that shopping experience makes her feel like a success. And she's driven by the motivation of achievement. And because she's driven by achievement, she's going to want to have 1, 2, 3 things happening during that shopping experience that's going to elevate her emotional arousal to get her really excited, and it's going to tap into long-term memory. LLMs will never get you to that space. So you better have an NLP or you better have somebody behind the scenes who understands what they're seeing in that data from a human perspective to try to bring more light. And I think that's why Susan Sweet said, I'm getting great findings, but I'm not getting the why, because she's using a generalist model. And frankly, most research companies out there, especially in the last 2 years, Matt, they're using the generalist LLM models to summarize data quickly, and that's good. If you want to get great, US Olympic team, you better bring in other agents, whether it's a human agent or an NLP agent.
I love it. I love it. And that was actually a nice segue into something else I wanted to touch upon, because we're talking about generative AI, we're talking about LLMs, we're diving into NLPs. The human. Where is the human? How is the human coming into the mix? Do we need humans anymore, Will? Mindstate G.
I think little by little, we're going to be taken out. No, of course, here's why. Here's why we need humans. I think there's 2 reasons why we need humans as researchers. One will be how to get better data. And the second one will be how do we take the findings out of the AI and apply it to our client's business. And both problems, or there's both problems with having AI do that for you. The first thing about bringing somebody in on getting the right data. Think of it this way. If large language models have been trained on Shakespeare, the New York Times, Facebook posts, it's all this crazy conversational data that generally was not ever meant to be trained on why people do the things that they do. It's just conversational data. So if you are somebody out there who really understands how to use projective techniques, how to use system 1 thinking, how to ask the right questions to get to people's real beliefs about why they do what they do, then that's needed because LLMs are never going to get you there. And frankly, most surveys are never going to get you there either. They're just not. They're not designed to do that. Surveys are generally designed to get you fast, rational, structured data so you can do data analytics on it. So humans are meant to be helping with collection of the data. You better know how to ask the right questions in the right way and when. That's why that's why you guys have great qualitative researchers there at Behaviorally, right? Because
Hmm.
those people can never be replaced by AI because AI was never designed to do that.
Sure.
Maybe it will be in the future, but it's not right now. Secondly, is once you get all that stuff. So let's say you had the multi-agent system like I'm talking about. You have the large language model, it's summarizing all that data. Then you run it through an NLP to take and look at behavioral psychology and you get all the what and the why. It's going to spit out some kick-ass insights and you're going to feel really good about those insights. And if you hand those insights to any of the firms I work with, and we work with the similar firms, really large manufacturing companies,
Hmm.
large brands, those our clients are swamped in meetings and they can't take that next step. They don't have the time. They can, from an intellectual perspective, they don't have the time to take those insights and make sure that they're applied to their business problems. That's our job. Never
Hmm.
used to be our job, but frankly, it's our job now. I've
Hmm.
done big, massive pieces of research, Matt, where I may not be able to get my client's calendar for weeks after the research is done. Why? They're incredibly busy. They're trying to grow brands. I think the human is going to be needed to take those insights, know enough about the client. We know that she's got a customer summit coming up. We understand that she's got a big presentation that's going to take in 4 other pieces of research. She's got to go and talk to their XCOM. We need to know that and know how to feed her information. Sometimes it's a cool research report. Sometimes it's just a conversation or a video I will send my clients for 2 minutes saying, hey, I was thinking about you. Here's an insight I think you're going to need for your customer summit. AI was never designed to do that. So I think you're going to want to have humans on the front end and you're going to want to have humans on the back end. In that middle, AI is great at making your research much faster, probably get you better insights and cheaper insights, I could argue.
I love it. Humans on the front end and back end in order to ask the right questions and ensure that you distill the information on the back end in a way that's applicable to the client objectives, whatever those objectives may be, whatever it's tied to, the conference they're going to, the meeting that they have next, and really just helping them. That makes complete sense to me, Will.
Yep.
So let's talk a bit as we start to close out about the next, I was going to say 5 years, but geez, everything moves so fast. The next 2 years. I mean, the number is really not important, but the future, right? Where do you see it going from here? Where do you see the application of AI going? Where do you see the utilization of, let's just say, even LLM and NLP? Is that a more common combo that we see in the marketplace broadly? Is that going to start to really, you know, become what Chat GPT is now, not just an LLM, but something that you're using with greater frequency, and there'll be a variety of NLPs to select, and you'll be able to have that subject matter expertise really intertwined with the large language model? Tell me what your thoughts are there.
I hope so. So there's a couple of things that are kind of swirling in my head here. One is I don't believe that, and it's going to kind of tie into our human conversation with the importance of human beings. And I think this is going to be important as we move forward with LLMs and artificial intelligence. So large language models by design require hallucinations. Let me give you perspective. So I've been at meetings and we're like, oh, our LLMs, we don't have hallucinations. We're trying to get rid of hallucinations, and that's a scary part. I'm telling you, and I'm a simple man, Matt, so I may be a little off on this, but by design, so it's embedded in the code, LLMs will always have hallucinations. Why? Because you're asking it questions. So you want it to generate a summary. You want it to generate, hey, I need to write a thank you letter to my mom or whatever. Do that for me. It's going to hallucinate. So it's going to generate conversations. And just by design, it needs to hallucinate because it's never going to have enough information about you to be able to do the exact words that you need without a hallucination. That is important for you to know because that's not going to be solved. There are not coders out there thinking themselves, how can I get my large language model to not hallucinate? That is not what their goal is. Their goal is to create models that can be used again and again with as many different possibilities, so that more and more people will use them. I say that because if you're out there thinking that, well, we just got to get better models, and this is where we're going to say in the future, right? We need
Hmm.
better models that don't hallucinate. You're not going to get there.
Hmm.
Not really, because they're not designed to do that. So, if that's the case, Here's what I think the future is going to be. This is why I love NLPs, because NLPs don't hallucinate. NLPs take data, unstructured data, look for patterns in that data, use mathematics to say, oh, this pattern's coming up again and again. And so all it's doing is regurgitating the data back to me in a form that makes sense, because it's in, whether it's using behavioral psychology or it's giving it the data that makes sense to me, and it's giving me actual mathematics. 48% of your population is driven by the achievement motivation. 15% is driven by the belonging motivation. It's not hallucinating. It's doing it a really kick-ass way of data analytics using behavioral sciences. So that being said, here's why I think we're going to look at the future like this. Researchers are going to become kind of like movie producers. Here's what AI is going to do. And they're going to use different platforms, kind of like Shopify. So imagine if you're a researcher, you're a client researcher, and you're given these problems, and there's a massive problem. I got to increase penetration of my brand by 4% before next year, 2 years, whatever. That's a big, big problem. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to think to yourself, almost like a movie producer. I have a blockbuster movie I want to make, and I'm going to bring in the right actors with the right script writers, with the right producers, with the right director, and you're going to create little blockbuster teams. And we're doing that in marketing research right now. Like you and I, we've been working together. I've worked with Behaviorally in the past. I work with other suppliers. That's a really neat thing that's happening now, because we don't see ourselves necessarily as competitors. We see ourselves as, hey, we're trying to come together for a blockbuster team to get a really great blockbuster movie. So, and clients are expecting that from us. I believe what's going to happen is researchers are going to start thinking of themselves as producers, and they're going to go to a platform full of lots of small models, kind of like Shopify, or maybe just think about your app store out there, guys. You're going to go to an app store one day, and you're going to click, oh, you know what? Here's my problem. I need this model, and this model, and this model. And you're going to basically just rent those models for that project. They're going to integrate, talk to each other, and it's going to give you a incredible new methodology that we can't even comprehend right now, because we don't think that way. We think in silos. We think of, here's my model, here's what I can do for you. I think the future, all these models are going to be on massive platforms. And as a researcher, your job is to be a producer. You're going to pick the best director, best script writer, best actors, put them all together, make the blockbuster research project, and everybody will disband. What's interesting about that idea then is, what is the role for the client and what is the role for the supplier? Right? And I don't know if I know that. I don't know. But that's an interesting concept. As a supplier, if you come to me, am I going to go and find all the different apps and models and bring them together for you? Or is the client going to say, no, that's my job. I'm the big block. I'm the executive producer. You're going to just basically be a specialist and you're going to help me out. And so are we going to be strategic? What is our role in that space? I don't know. But when I look at other technologies, we go to app stores every day to make our phones better. I don't see why that wouldn't happen with lots of models. I don't think they're going to be major, big models. I think you're going to start seeing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of smaller models, like my NLP model, other models, and you're just going to start selecting, but we'll see.
Very interesting. Yeah, I like that take a lot. I really do. And who knows, maybe we'll just be, making sure that the models work appropriately, constantly tweaking models, getting more into the models. That'll become more common for the suppliers or for, the either side of the
models
equation,
that
to be
pick
honest.
the models for you. Who knows? Like, there'll be a model that picks, who knows? You'll just type in, here's what I'm trying to increase penetration of my brand by 4%. And all of a sudden the methodology will be built for you and you'll be knowing, oh, wow. And you may not even have line of sight to what the supplier is behind that model. You may not. Like, it's just going to bring these things together. It's going to take get the sample out for you in the right way. Who knows what that's going to happen. But if I start seeing more and more of these kind of Shopify platforms coming out, or seeing more and more models coming together, I think we all have to fundamentally start rethinking our roles. I just think we will, because if you are a specialist and you don't have a model, then you may be pushed out of that world. But we'll see.
Yeah, no. I love the insight and I love the thoughts on the future. And I really thank you for joining us today. The Mindstate G, he's an OG. And it's Will Leach. Thank you, Will. I really appreciate it. I want to thank our listeners too, of course, for tuning in to Our Best Behavior, brought to you by Behaviorally. Will, great to have you. Please check out Will, check out other episodes of Our Best Behavior. And with that, we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, Matt.